Hi, I'm Ann Foley. I'm the costume designer for season 2 of The Last of Us. Ellie had a big change because she is now 19, no longer 14-year-old. It was really an incredible journey. Like, who is Ellie as a 19-year-old? What is going on between her and Joel? And so we worked towards a color palette that was a little bit darker, more navies, more greens. And it actually sort of mirrors Joel's color palette this season as well, because I think Craig had pointed it out. They might not be related by blood, but they're partners on this journey together. So I wanted their palettes to be similar. One of the things that I'm the most proud of this season is my collaboration with Bella and helping Bella find Ellie as a 19-year-old and showing that through the clothes and the subtle shifts and how the clothes are fitting that, make Ellie look more like an adult instead of a child. And those are amazing fittings with Bella. I gave a pair of those Converse to Bella early on in prep. And I just said, I want you to doodle and draw on these. Like, Ellie doodles and draws in her journal. And any 18, 19-year-old is going to doodle on their Converse. So cool what Bella did on this Converse. I just love every doodle, every detail. That's why I posted them onto my Instagram, because I wanted fans to get a close-up look of what the doodles were. And because it's such a great detail and it's such great insight into who Ellie is, even though it's not anything people are really going to see on screen. But Bella knew the doodles were there. I knew they were there. And that's those are the small little details that help the actors find their characters, I think. With Ellie and with Dina, they have a lot of freedom of movement in those garments. And if they need harnesses, we size up in the jeans and in the clothes. Everything is built around the harness to make sure that there's nothing restrictive. And it's also real and it feels believable for them. That's part of my job as a designer, is when we're looking, at what the scene requirements are, character requirements, you work with all the departments in trying to make sure that this is going to flow smoothly. With Joel, there were some subtle changes. You're going to see, or you might have noticed, his shirts are more tucked in. He's got more of that dad thing happening, respectable Jackson citizen. And that jacket on Joel was such an iconic part of his look season 1 that I wanted to bring it back, not only because clothes in this world are precious and people don't throw things away. Joel's not going to throw a jacket away. He's going to wear it until it falls apart. And we did age it down a lot further and darkened it and really frayed a lot of the edges to give it that this has been around for an extra 5 years and I've been going out, on patrols in this jacket. But also, when Ellie goes to Joel's house in episode 3 and sees that jacket in the closet, as an audience member, that's supposed to destroy you almost as much as Ellie. It was really important because I think originally it might have been one of his shirts, but it's I don't think that's going to have the impact. And that's really one of the main reasons. I always knew that scene was coming up, and that's why I felt it was important to use that jacket, and Pedro was in 100% agreement with me on that. With Tommy, he pretty much, we stayed true to who he already was, but what I'd love to think is that Tommy was always tucking his shirts in to be more respectable. So Joel thought, okay, I think I need to start doing that too. It's this wonderful red wool plaid that we found somewhere. I can't even remember where we found it, but again, when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, that's perfect. In my mind, when I was doing my boards, I came across an image of the Marlboro Man from the early 90s. And it just sort of hit me. I'm like, that's Tommy. And so that's what I wanted that jacket to be. So we used the red plaid. I used a fake shearling because I tried to use all fake fur for the cast on their parkas this season. And, we made it in-house. It has also a waterproof lining in there because it was snowing and even raining a lot in Vancouver, which is where we were shooting. So it was also about keeping the actors comfortable because a lot of that stuff you see in the snow was real. I just wanted them to have a personality. Like the clicker that you see in the rail in the subway, he had an insanely cool band t-shirt from the 90s. And I loved that idea. I loved the idea of who was this guy, before he got infected. And most of the infected in Seattle, there's a couple in there. I think one has a football jersey on. There's another one that's got a Seattle Loggers sweatshirt on. And people from Seattle loved it because it's true. It's real. It's like, that's who every single one of these people were somebody before they got bit. With the WLF, it was founded by Isaac, and you saw how all that went down. And Isaac, he has that Fedra background and also practicality of, we're not going to throw these uniforms away. We're just going to repurpose them. So how we did that was we really stripped some of the color down on some of those uniforms, and then we ripped the patches off, and we left those holes in the arms or like where the rip would have been where they ripped the patch off. And I think in some instances, we even just ripped the patch in half. So the palette for the WLF is a lot of brown, grays, match the wolf, and then navy. They took all that Fedra stuff and then they repurposed it. You'll even see in some of their vests. Those are old Fedra vests because, again, that's what you would do in this world. Everything gets repurposed. And yeah, it is a bit of a militia. So you're seeing civilian wear mixed in with the military stuff. So it's not as tight as Fedra was, but it's not completely loose either. It is definitely, pulled together like an organized militia. So yeah, Seattle is a completely different temperature. It's a different time of year. So we're moving into springtime in Seattle, and everyone knows it just rains in the Pacific Northwest that time of year. And it's hot. So everyone's got a hood. Even Dina, I made a little vest for her that goes under her coat that's got a hood to it. But most of the time they're running around and they're not even using that stuff. It's sort of like a true resident of that area where if it's raining, who cares? It's just rain. So, you even see that in the Sarafites. They have hoods, but I don't think that's what they're using their hoods for. They're using their hoods when they're hunting or they're trying to hide. So they don't really care about the rain. It doesn't mean anything. I start with the source material and with the game, but made a couple changes with Craig and Neil's blessing, because one of the many things I love about working with them is that they're like, this is great. That was what was in the game, but we want to see your take on this. And in my initial interview that I did with them to interview for the season, the board that I did for the Sarafites, I think is one of the things that got me the job. They really were drawn to the imagery on that board and the ideas behind it. And so Imogene Shays, who's my costume concept illustrator, and I worked really closely with one of the other artists at Naughty Dog and got the whole backstory of how they came up with their look for the Sarafites and how and why they landed on that. And then we took that information and then we took it to the next level. So they're not in raincoats like you see in the game. They're in ponchos. And my thought process with that was, they're by the water, by an abandoned marina. So maybe they went and took the canvas off of old boats and created these ponchos. So all the ponchos have different, color canvases in them. Like they just sort of patchwork them together.
Again, thank you so much for your time. This was really amazing.
Oh, thank you. This was really fun.